Welcome. In front of me I have the ASUS TUF gaming router, the TUF-AX4200, and I'll be going over unboxing along with a quick look at the device itself. So let's first flip it over to the back where we'll have some information. So taking a look, we have 2.5 gigabyte multi-gigabit ports. So 2.5 gigabits per second, and apparently that's what it takes from the ISP. So if you have like 8 gigabit internet, it seems like this router might not be able to handle that, or it will only up to that 2.5. So something to maybe look into. Even though this is Wi-Fi 6, so it should be able to handle up to a little over 9 gigabits per second. So in any case, we also have a little bit of info right here about the speed. So faster up to 2.6 times over the Wi-Fi 5. Now, if you're wondering what these are, the 802.11ax and AC, these are basically the standards. Instead of writing in simpler terms Wi-Fi 5 and Wi-Fi 6, they went with the more technical and more confusing kind of jargon, because I'm relatively tech savvy, and for the love of God I cannot remember which one is which, and there's several other ones. We also have 2.4, which also has a different letters, and we have the 6E, which is even faster. So I have no clue which one would it be if I just look at the lettering. It's something that I literally need to check myself. So yeah, with that out of the way, we have some team up with with friends, an easy setup. Not really sure what this is. So port forwarding is okay. It's kind of hard to see. Port forwarding is critical for gaming. Blah blah blah. Now I want to point out, just before people go buying out router thinking that it's going to solve their problems, because it might not. So your service provider, the internet service provider, nowadays, at least where I'm from, which is Poland, most of them tend to just try to screw us over. And number one, port forwarding, even though it's in the router that they provide, it's not gonna let me change shit. Or even if it does let me change shit, this has no effect because the port forwarding is locked internally on their end. So I might unlock it, but it still has another place where it's being locked before it even gets to me or leaves from me. So this is kind of useless, and keep that in mind. If you already have a crappy router from your service provider and you can't unlock ports or whatever, or your IPs are changing or any other things like that, these are providers bullshit kind of tactics, and not the router. Buying a new router won't solve your problem. So the reason you might want to buy a new router is, for instance, for the better standard. If you have an old one and you have something like the Wi-Fi 2.6 gigahertz, obviously 6 will be much faster rather than compared to the 5 or 2.4. And additionally, with the Wi-Fi 6, you get more stable connection. It supports more devices at the same time. So if you have smart home appliances, a big mesh of them, like a bunch of lights and stuff like that, you probably want a better router for that, just because, or newer one like with the Wi-Fi 6, as it will have an easier time handling all the different appliances that are connected to the same network. So anyway, let's just get into it. There we go. So here we have it. There. So we have some manual spread all over the box. Cool. We have advanced Wi-Fi help tips. Cool. Just by the looks of it, a simple guide on setting it up and stuff like that. So below that we have our actual router with pretty visible color scheme right here. That's like probably the best way I can call it. 4 antennas at the back. We have our, if I can get the light to hit correctly. Jeez, these cameras are probably bad for this, but we have our power on and off switch, our DC in, our LAN ports right here, are in, the 2.5 gigabit per second one, and Wi-Fi, the USB 3.0. So you can plug in a USB stick in here with some memory and basically have something like a pseudo NAS. But I do want to point out, most routers are very bad at handling, or I should say, ones that I've experienced can't handle anything above like 250 gigabit SD cards. So anything like that, it just doesn't see it. So it's kind of useless for bigger kind of storages if you want to actually have a NAS. If you were, for instance, to plug in a hard drive, like 1 terabyte one, that is already in its enclosure, self-powered through outlet, and just plug in the USB 3, it probably still won't work. Now this is ASUS, so maybe it will actually, but I haven't ever tried it. I know that for me, even like the newest router that I got from my service provider, which costed extra, didn't do anything with that. So yeah. Anyway, that's basically it. Now we do have visible PCB from the bottom. We can kind of see it right here. Ugly as green color, so very cheap looking. Instead of what you would typically see on ASUS is like red PCBs, at least I think they do that in laptops and motherboards sometimes. Red along with just straight up black ones. So yeah, anyway, that's the router, and then here we have our charger. So this is the European plug, and then our Ethernet cable, and that's it. So if you found this very helpful, don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and thanks for watching.